excellent.
He slipped in and out of a coma that lasted for several months. Yet every time he opened his eyes, there she was. It was his wife, the one who had committed for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health. She was sitting right there by his side. As a matter of fact, she hadn't even left him, not even for one day. And then one afternoon when he woke up, he motioned for her to come closer to him. And she walked over and she sat beside him on the bed. And he began to whisper with a low voice with his eyes just full of tears. And he said, "Sweetheart," he said, "do you know what?" He said, "You've been with me through every bad time of my life." He said, "When I got fired from my job, you were there to support me. And when I left that career behind and started my dream business, and then it failed, well, you were there. And then we had no money. We lost the house, but you stayed. You went nowhere. And then when my health started to fail, you were right there by my side." He said, "Do you know what?" And with a smile on her face and her heart beginning to fill with joy, she whispered, "What is it, dear?" And he said, "I think you're bad luck. I'm going to need you to leave." You know, commitment, it's important. Our lives are shaped by commitments. We become whatever we're committed to. So what are you becoming? Welcome to the Mind Your Business podcast, the podcast for whatever business is on your mind. Let's get started.
Well, that's excellent.
Well, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Mind Your Business podcast. Hey, if this brings value to your life, will you do me a favor? Like, subscribe, and share this with other people. I just want to add value to as many people as possible. You know, sometimes it feels like commitment is just a thing of the past. It's like an old haircut or clothes that have just gone out of style. But for previous generations, commitment was important. As a matter of fact, it was so important that the only accountability they needed was just a simple handshake. But today, it seems like we have this resistance to commitment and accountability. Responsibility, accountability, and commitment, we've just traded it. We've traded it in for freedom and flexibility to do whatever it is that we want to do. And we see this basically in every area of our life, but especially in the marketplace. And a lack of commitment is detrimental to all areas of our lives because it produces poor communication, low productivity, a lack of trust, one-sided relationships, and ultimately failure in all of these areas. So I want to ask you this question: what is your level of commitment to the various areas of your life? Do those around you struggle with commitment? Well, to help us better understand ourselves and maybe some people that we serve with, we work with, or people we lead, I've compiled 3 categories of different people, and I want you to see if you can find yourself or some other people that maybe you lead or serve with in one of these categories. And the first is this: they are cop-outs. The first group of people that I want to talk about are cop-outs. If you've ever heard that term, a cop-out is somebody who neglects problems or responsibilities and certainly commitments. A cop-out won't set goals. They refuse to make decisions. They'll avoid it at all costs. Now, I recognize that this got personal like really quick, but the truth is that it's easy to be a cop-out in different areas of our life. This trait even shows up in really small and insignificant ways. Like, let me give you an example. Have you ever gotten ready for dinner or for lunch only to get in the car with someone that you're going to eat with, and you have a conversation that goes like this: "Well, where do you want to go?" "Well, I don't care. Where do you want to go?" "Well, it doesn't matter to me. I'll go wherever you want to go." "Well, I don't really have a preference. I'm fine with whatever you choose." You get the idea. You've had conversations just like that. Now, this is small and insignificant, but this same principle applies to some of the larger areas of our life. And I've already said that you become whatever it is that you're committed to. The problem is that if you commit to nothing, you will become nothing. So what are you missing out on because you commonly cop out? What's missing in your organization because of a culture of cop-outs? That's important to ask yourself. What are you missing because you're copping out or because you have a culture of cop-outs in your organization? The second group of people are holdouts. People who hold out. This is a big one in our culture today. Holdouts aren't just trying to avoid commitment, they're afraid of commitment. And I can find myself, if I'm honest and transparent, I can find myself in this category if I'm not careful. I was a holdout before starting this podcast. I was afraid of the commitment. Years ago, when my wife and we purchased our house, we were afraid of the commitment. We said, well, what if we buy this and then something better comes along and then we'll regret this purchase? We were copping out. Many times we're just afraid to commit, so we hold out. And because of the risk involved, we just freeze. And we say things like, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if I get hurt? What if it doesn't go the way that I hope it goes? And then we consider the cost of the commitment, so we begin to hold out. But I want to tell you, there's always a cost to any commitment. But also, let me remind you that great people are built from great commitment. Sometimes we think that success just came easy for others. The truth is that they just committed to the risk and were willing to pay the cost. In order to get what you see, you have to commit to what you don't. In order to get what you see in other people, you've got to commit to a process of doing what you can't see. Walt Disney, Henry Ford, Milton Hershey, all of these people experienced bankruptcy along their journey, but they were willing to take the risk and to pay the price. They didn't hold out. They committed to the process, and because of that commitment, eventually they found success. The third group of people that I want to bring to our attention are dropouts. These are people that quit when things get tough. And this seems to be just widely accepted in our world today. In the last few years, we've coined the phrase, the Great Resignation. Is literally thousands of people have not only quit their jobs, but they've quit the workforce altogether. In 2022, 50.6 million people quit their jobs, and another 44.5 million quit in 2023. We just live in this convenience culture. And when we live in a convenience culture, this convenience, it overpowers our commitment. Think about it. Our food is fast. Our groceries are delivered to our doorstep. Amazon delivers the next day. Information is instant. Entertainment is in full supply directly to your device. And although all these are appreciated perks of life, I use them and I appreciate them, and I don't want to do without them. But without balance, we lose the ability to commit regardless of the circumstance. Without balance, we lose the ability to work hard, to weather the storms of life, and don't quit. It's going to take hard work. There's going to be difficult circumstances. There will be storms in life. But commitment is more important than convenience. So do you feel at home in any of these categories? Do you recognize these people in your organization? Well, if so, I don't want to leave you there. I want to give you 3 simple ways to begin constructing a life of commitment. These 3 simple things will help you begin a foundational construction of a life of commitment. And the first thing I would say is you need to be able to name your commitments. Put a name, get specific with your commitments. Commitment begins with something that's specific. It has to be achievable. It has to be goals that are tangible. So commitment begins with setting specific, achievable goals. It's hard to commit when you haven't fully defined what you're committing to. But when you clearly define what you want to accomplish, it helps create a framework for what your commitments should follow. Now, this is true in your personal development, your career advancement, or your relationships, basically any area of your life. So if you haven't, I encourage you to watch or listen to my previous podcast on how to begin. That content will also help you learn to begin in this area of your life. It'll give you a boost as you begin to name your commitments. Another thing that I think is important is to be able to announce your commitments. Announce your commitments. Go public with your commitment. I mentioned earlier, I made the statement that I'd been a holdout in starting this podcast. You see, behind the scenes, I had personally named the commitment to myself. I had a concept for this podcast. I actually had a name for the podcast. I even had topic ideas for the podcast, what I wanted to talk about. I even had goals and desires for the podcast. But I knew that there would be a cost of commitment, so I was a holdout. See, I knew that once I started, I would have to follow through. But when it went public, you see, when I made the public announcement, that brought accountability, and that accountability created commitment. As soon as I said it to more than myself that this podcast was going to be a reality, I had to be committed. It's also said that Thomas Edison followed this same formula. When he had a good idea for a new invention, he would go to those who were around him and he would announce it, and then he would go get to work. And then because it was public, he was more committed to the goal. And we all need people around us to both challenge us and to cheer us. I talked about that in our previous podcast as well, who we're taking on the journey with us. And people that are around us, they matter. You need people who both challenge you, and you also need people who will cheer you. Another thing is to measure your commitments. This will help you build a foundation of commitment in your life. Regardless of what it is that you're committed to, you can measure your progress. Sometimes we will name a commitment and then we'll announce a commitment, but we fail to measure it to know if we're winning or if we are losing. If you play a game and you don't keep score, you don't know who's winning or losing. And in life, there are winners and there are losers, and we want to win. So let me give you a few ways that I think are helpful. Here's a few tangible things, the strategies that will help you measure your progress. So the first I would say is keep track of the actions that you're taking towards your commitment. Keep track of the actions that you're taking toward your commitment. Now, you could do this on a daily basis, a weekly basis, or even monthly. These actions, it just depends on the nature of your commitment. But you could track daily. How did I do today? I'm going to achieve this. Here's my goal. Here is my commitment. I've told those around me. Now, how do I know if I'm staying faithful to the commitment? Well, today, did I take steps forward or did I take steps backwards? Am I progressing? Am I doing better? Am I getting closer to my goal? How did I do today? How did I do this week? If you want to do it weekly, take an inventory of your week or even monthly. But take inventory to take a look to see how you're doing. You could even track your commitments. I love this one, using the Seinfeld method. Maybe you've heard of the Seinfeld method, or maybe not. But Jerry Seinfeld once gave advice to a young comic who asked, how can I be a better comedian? And he said the way to be a better comic is to create better jokes, and the way to create better jokes is to write every single day. Well, obviously, if you're a better comedian, you have better jokes, but the ticket to success was writing every day. So he said, get a big wall calendar that has a whole year on one page and then hang it on a prominent wall, somewhere that you're going to see it all the time. Then get a big red magic marker. And he said, for each day that you do the task of writing, you put a big red X over that day. And he said, after a few days, then you'll have a chain. He said, just keep at it, and the chain will grow larger and larger and longer every single day. Eventually, you'll like seeing the chain, especially when you get a few weeks under your belt and it begins to fill up with all the red X's. And then he said, your only job is not to break the chain. Now, to me, that was the significant statement, the piece of information that Jerry Seinfeld gave. Your only job is not to break the chain. So you'll notice that Seinfeld didn't say a single thing about the results. It didn't matter if the guy was motivated, felt like writing, or if he didn't. It didn't matter if he was writing great jokes or lousy jokes. Seinfeld said all that mattered was not breaking the chain. Why was that it? Because it was all about the commitment. It wasn't about the outcome in the moment. It was just that every day he was committed to the process. And what Jerry knew was that if he committed to the process of writing jokes, doing it every day would make him better and better. Another thing that you can do is you can have a monthly personal review. Now, many of you do this if you lead teams. If you're a manager or a leader, you'll have meetings and reviews with some of your employees or some of the people that you lead in a department. Set an appointment with yourself, one that is non-negotiable, and then stick to it. Don't let anything get in the way. You put it on the calendar. You tell people, I have an appointment that day. My calendar is full from this time to this time. I can't meet. I can't talk. I have an appointment. And then at that appointment, be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, did I move forward or did I move backwards? Ask yourself, what success did I have? What did I do that I succeeded at? And be honest about what failures did I experience? What did I do wrong? What did I not get right? And in all of that, here's where you learn. Ask yourself, what lessons from the failures, what lessons from the successes did I learn? And then from this month, how can I take that and then apply it to the month that's ahead of me? So take all of that information from an evaluation with yourself. Use everything you've learned in a month and apply it to the month ahead and see if it doesn't make you better. Another one that we often overlook is to celebrate the wins. Driven people, people who are motivated to success, that we have an end goal in mind. We don't slow down long enough to celebrate our wins. Allow yourself to celebrate the progress that you're making. We can be so focused on the destination that we don't enjoy the journey. I want to encourage you, enjoy the journey. Just enjoy the progress, enjoy all the preparation, all the work, all of the learning, all of the growing. Enjoy it along the way, because it really is true that the journey is oftentimes better than the destination. And if you'll commit to it, you will get better over time. Another one is to ask for feedback. Allow other people to also provide you feedback on the commitment that you have publicly communicated. You've already said it. You've already told people that you were going to do it. You've already named your commitment. You've already announced your commitment. Now you can let them help you measure that commitment. Sure, you sat with yourself and you gave yourself an evaluation, but sometimes you need another perspective. Sometimes you need different input from different people. And having input from other perspectives is valuable. So let other people whom you have announced your commitment to, let them help you along the journey. Now, I hope that this has been a sobering look at commitments in your life, or even, if you want to be honest, a lack of commitments in your life. And I want to remind you that you become whatever you're committed to. And if you commit to nothing, you will become nothing. But if you commit to success, I believe you will be successful. I'm committed to living what I call life on purpose. I want to make a difference in the lives of other people. So I'm committed to helping other organizations just like yours be the best that it can be. I'm more fulfilled when I help you find fulfillment. So you can use the link in the show notes to schedule a free 15-minute personal consultation with me, just to see how I can help and how I can add value to you and to your organization. And I want to say thanks again for being a part of the Mind Your Business podcast. Of course, the podcast for whatever business is on your mind. And so if this added value to you, again, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and to share this with other people. This just helps to ensure that we can reach as many people as possible. Hey, I appreciate your commitment to this podcast, and I will see you again on the next one. Have a great day.